Now Senna would finally get a car that can win a championship again. But you see, what Williams did wrong is forget to make a great handling car. The weakness of Williams was, well, it was too dependent on active suspension. Instead of making a well-balanced car first, and then installing the master system around the well-balanced car, assisting it to be as overpowered as it was, rather they made an amazing revolutionary active suspension system that they tuned the car around. So the car leaned on its system and sheer power as a crutch. And you say, why are you talking about this, Jesse? Yeah, it would be trash without the active suspension system, but guess what? It does have it. Well, you're wrong. It doesn't. 1994, FIA decided to ban all electronic aids. Active suspension, traction control, launch control, the whole lot. This is beyond emotional damage. Is this what death feels like? Senna's words in the driver's briefing, it was only not allowed for me, but it's allowed for everyone else. Well, they greeted him again. But you see, what is simply insane, this wasn't just the FIA hating on Ayrton. Ferrari was also trying to make a smart system like Williams, but their one was failing. It wasn't working, it was breaking, it wasn't good enough. And then they threw their toys out the cot that Williams is working and not theirs, and started protesting that Williams has an unfair domination. This encouraged the FIA to slaughter Senna. So now the new FW16 Williams for 1994, without the active suspension system, well, it handled amazing. About as amazing as it looked. It behaved like an absolute bastard. But the crazy thing is, for pre-season testing, Ayrton and Damon were testing the Williams with the system. Then only afterwards they were driving the Williams without the active suspension system. Basically, Frank was like, hey Ayrton, raise up your hopes, feel how amazing this car is. Only to shoot him in the foot with something darker than you could have imagined. Let's go through the details. You see, the Williams active suspension system was made to maintain the peak level of grip by the perfect ride height for low and high end downforce and weight balancing. Basically everything that you do to get the right amount of grip on the tires you want for the action you're taking, whether it's cornering or exiting a corner or braking. The car virtually balanced the center of gravity for you. But for the racing version, the real FW16 for 1994, Williams bolted on a narrow setup windowed passive suspension system to a chassis that was designed around active suspension. As I already said, the thing is, they couldn't just build a whole new car, or if they could, they didn't. What they did is work with what they had, and it was an absolute ticking bomb. The Aero was also designed around the active suspension system, the perfect ride height, pitch, squat and roll margin that active suspension maintained for optimal grip, while the Aero was designed to perform best in that window. But now there was a natural suspension reaction to weight transfer. It's passive suspension, meaning it's the driver's job to control the center of balance. And in a normal car, while shifting weight is part of driving, controlling center of gravity, balance and rotation, what we always talk about. And Senna was an aggressive weight shifting artist. But for this car, the truth is the aerodynamics have only one operating window. It's how it's made and tuned. So anything out of the operating window and the aero does more than stall, resulting in snap oversteer or understeer, either one of them. The diffuser especially was a problem. The diffuser designed for the perfect ride height and rake for peak downforce. Now going out of the operating window by dive and squat wasn't just messing up the grip by stalling the aero, ruining the front to rear grip balance, but also during lateral weight transfer in the form of leaning, yaw rotation, in cornering. The aero would not always stall evenly left to right, hence sometimes shoving the car violently to the left or to the right. With all these aerodynamic parts working differently outside of the operating window, causing its own turbulence and side winds. If there was any slight steering correction, well, the car was sucked into the side. Sometimes overload of yaw, sometimes understeer. Depends how exactly it happens. They tried to solve the problem by stiffening up the suspension, but this only made it worse. Besides the fact that there was now less rear end traction for exiting corners, if the road was bumpy enough, cornering over a bump, the inside would already lose downforce by the lean aero stall. While the inside stalls, the outside might have a downforce increase, and then bottoming out over a bump, you'd suddenly lose all downforce while getting super unstable porpoising after already getting sucked to the side by some invisible side wind. But due to the suspension being stiffened, this has a slightly lower effect, right? Well, no, it's worse. It became disgustingly nervous over bumps. Stiffening up the suspension did not help at all. To help the diffuser, they also went on fitting some weird arrow-shaped lower rear wing. It was to help stabilize turbulent air from the diffuser that was stalled by pitch. It was like a fan, but it wasn't helpful enough to be fair. What made everything worse is that weird arrow wing. If the airflow detached early from the wing, it could interfere with diffuser evacuation, basically clog the airflow like a blocked drain, slowing down the air, creating turbulence, creating a massive lift in the rear end, resulting in snap oversteer. You might just take off backwards, and to make it all worse, the wheelbase was shortened. So when it snap oversteered, it was far more fast and brutal, 10 times more punishing. And you say, why make aero so concentrated in one narrow window? But this is what happens when you perfect something. Cars get more peaky when they get grip maximized. Grippier tires and downforce, you stretch the limit higher. The margin gets smaller, leading to more unforgiving snapping over the limit. But this is a different type of thing altogether. The truth is, in a normal car, the limit is up there and that's it. The way they tuned the aero was perfect for the active suspension Williams. Everything was tuned to the max. But not for this drunk demon. In this FW16, you could feel the same peaky snap of oversteer going around the corner at 350 kilometers per hour, exactly the same way as if you went around the same corner at 80. When the fuel tank was full and when it was near empty, the car would have totally different aerodynamic characteristics. I think Ayrton got a concussion from driving this thing. Look at him. He doesn't know what to do. He's dumbfounded how bad this car can possibly be. He did so much work to get competitive again, and now he's at the same place he was. He was mad, more than emotionally damaged, yet he was resilient. And so when that visor was down, no matter what he had to do, no matter how hard he had to wring the neck of that Williams, he went flat out and beyond. And he was head and shoulders above Damon Hill. In the end, something amazing happened. Brazil, the first race of the year. Qualifying goes on Friday and Saturday, and Ayrton Senna comes within a tenth of beating Alain's record at this track. The record Alain set in the active suspension Williams. That 1993 one. That OP one. That one that practically drives itself. Senna came a 10th from breaking that record, driving the drunk demon. Qualified on pole in the Grand Prix starts. Senna and Schumacher on the front row get a good launch, but John Lacey gets the best one, shooting past Schumacher, threatening Senna on the inside of the first corner. With unreal car control keeping the Williams on the track, Senna still in first grows his gap, once again displayed his Firebird. And for a while, it appeared like they're on the same side. After a while, Senna and Schumacher pitted. Schumacher got the better pit and went into first place. Senna was chasing him down. Next time they pitted, the gap was about 5 seconds. Schumacher was still in front. Senna was chasing him down. But remember this. Look at that. You see that thing there? Yes, he was refueling, which means he'd be driving a totally different car now. Senna was chasing Schumacher. It was all looking promising. But then she strikes Senna. Absolutely stabbed him in the back with a blunt knife. He spun out on the last corner heading to the last bend. And the Brazilian fans were really pleased with Williams. This car was just unraceable. You can't use this to win a championship. From the beginning of the race till the end, whether he was at 300 or 20 kilometers per hour, he was on razor's edge. And as we know, it's a sus razor. It's not the fine art he performed on his McLaren, but more like he has control, and then out of the pink, he randomly doesn't. But for the Pacific Grand Prix, Senna snagged out pole again. He didn't care about dying. He went to the limit that he felt. If he crashes, he crashes. If he gets pole, he gets pole. If he wins, he wins. He took advantage of the Williams power, this time with a double wing. He was starting on front. However, the race starts, Senna slips behind Schumacher, and then once again the McLaren has love issues. And that's how it ended. There had been 2 races. Senna got pole on both of them, but DNF'd on both of them. Schumacher won both of them and was leading the championship, and Senna had not scored a single point. This was dark, and it was only gonna get darker as we come to Imola. Come Imola, the road surface was absolutely trash, like a tollgate. Okay guys, I know you like tollgates, I do too. The fact is, these are Formula 1 cars. Senna and Hill felt it the worst. The car was terribly unpredictable. all over the place like a drunk peasant. Going off was like a relief. Senna found a way to finesse the car to prioritize less mistakes. When the car wants to pull out its uncontrolled yaw, he would let the car rotate itself, instead of inducing and forcing rotation and then correcting it. But something rather crazy was happening behind the Benetton curtains. Senna's out of his car, you'd think he'd have a coffee and talk to some chicks. No, this is Senna. What he was doing was listening to the Benetton because something was sounding a little off. He heard some masterclass electric sounding system of throttle modulation. Yes, that old thing, traction control, that was banned. You could hear it on the exit of the corners, mostly on hairpins. Benetton found a way to bend the rules, getting the benefits of traction control without blatantly breaking the rules. Check what Scott Mansell has to say about it, he breaks it all down. You should be able to gauge by now, my main priority is not to get the most views. I mean, hell, I'm recommending another YouTube channel. I'm not trying to make the best spin-off documentary on Senna. We all have information about these heroes, and I'm sharing everything that I know. That's why we rushed through 1988 so fast, and 1989, 1990, everyone knows that. That's why I focus so much on 92 and 93, and now we are at 94. YouTube is a platform for all of us to share information, not for us to see who can make the best video of Senna crashing into Alain. Back to the video, well, Alain had something to say.
I must say that what he said, because I cannot judge myself, but he was convinced that the Benetton was cheating. He was very upset and he was in big trouble because of that, and again not very happy with the car, with the performance of the car. So he was obviously not very happy, saying that he could not find a motivation. Many times he told me, I cannot be motivated against Michael, against other drivers, and he was really like if he had not lost his passion. He had promised the car, promised the team the safety, maybe some small personal problems possible, but he has lost his skill, and that was very surprising.
Yes, this is the result. I mean, yes, Senna is stronger, we know this. He got stronger after 1992, and he was an absolute monster in 93. But how do you possibly have hope and motivation when every single possible thing that can go wrong, or even impossible, goes wrong? This is no more about resilience, this is about survival. But something far darker than driving this bastard was happening. Practice and qualifying for the San Marino Imola Grand Prix, and yes, the car is not changed. It's almost gotten worse. But then as they are looking for progress, trying to get the right setup for the car, at Bassa Variante, Rubens doesn't slow down enough, goes in a straight line, locks his brakes and then hits the curb. Lucky he was okay. But that was a hell of a hard crash, literally flying into the barriers. Although it was a weird one. Maybe he outbraced himself? But it looked like something was greatly off. But if it wasn't already dark enough, well, the fact is Senna's got big hands. The front part of the cockpit, the frame around his hands, holding the little windscreen, it was too small for him. He had bigger hands than Damon, and so his hands were constantly scraping on the frame. What he needed was a steering redesign. Put the steering wheel lower, so that his hands don't slice off. Remember this clip? Come on, you've been seeing it a lot in this video. This was actually in 1994 Imola. Senna took a track walk, so the engineers started working on the steering. Adrian Newey is the chief designer. Patrick Head is the technical director, and they have an engineering team. And the way they modified the steering column to accommodate for Senna's big hands, they cut it and did the most concerning welding job, making the steering column approximately 70% breakable, inadequate for driving. There was only 30% strength holding the two front wheels to the steering wheel that Ayrton was holding. The thing is, something was nagging on Senna. And it was more than just the sus handling of the car. Remember the steering? Ayrton's friend Angelo Pirelli, listen to what he said.
Yeah, he called me Friday in Imola, and he say, look, do you have a place to sleep? Say, what? You don't have the money for the hotel? No, I have the money for the hotel. I want to come and what happened? And you say, I want to stop. What do you mean you want to stop? No, the car is not handling. This British team is crazy. I want to stop. Okay, Ayrton. What you want to do in your life? I will start to produce karting in Brazil. Say, okay, fine. Why not? Can you help me? You say, yeah, I will help you. Okay, I will take a decision. Probably tomorrow morning I will be in Milano. He decided the wrong way. He stayed there.
Friday before the race.
Friday before the race,
And
before
he-
the qualification.
And he said the British team, he meant Williams, is stupid.
Yeah,
And he wanted to stop Formula One
to stop forever.
and come to you to produce go-karts for the Brazilian market.
Yeah, all over Brazil, not just Brazil, South America. He was so powerful that he can, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Everybody can buy Ayrton Senna da Silva go-kart.
Yeah.
He made the wrong choice. He decided to go on and he was suicide.
Suicide in a way.
He was suicide because what happened in Imola is nothing to do. Was not his fault, it was a mechanical fault. In Italy they choose the check and they broke the steering shaft.
Okay, that's and he knew that
And he knew that.
in his heart.
Yeah.
It's important for me to clarify, Angelo is not first language English. What he said here, he did not mean that Ayrton wanted to commit suicide. He was not suicidal. He was referring to a suicide mission. The fact is, Senna knew something was wrong. If you think Senna didn't know about this, you think he was fooled into it, well, you can't be more wrong. You should know by now Senna's much more observant than falling for dirty tricks. In his dedicated preparations and his innate feel, something was going down in the San Marino weekend. So we don't have any proof if Senna opened up the car or not. He either knew it from his innate feel or he ambushed an analysis when his engineers were not around. He's not going to fall for a dirty trick like that. If you make a fatal steering system and Senna gets into it, it's not because he doesn't know. It's because he's knowingly walking into the challenge for a reason. And just the next day, Roland Ratzenberger at the Villeneuve curve just after the fastest Tamburello, going at about 314 kilometers per hour, he went straight on. Said to be 500 G impact, and this time it was fatal. What the hell was going on? This track was eating its drivers. One weekend, we're still just in qualifying, and there have been 2 huge crashes, 1 fatal. Guess what happens? Everything goes on. And we don't know yet that Ratzenberger died. We're on the track questioning everything, not knowing what happened to the driver who crashed over 300 kilometers per hour. Ayrton decided he's not driving anymore. We are closing shop. Yeah, he gave his boss the orders, and that helped influence everyone else to quit. Senna would start on pole for the race, but that was the furthest thing from his mind. He saw Ratzenberger, and he also talked to his good friend Sid Watkins. Ayrton had a chat with Sid. Senna was deeply distraught, questioning a lot. And Sid said, you know, Ayrton, you've been 3 times world champion. You're the fastest man on earth. You like fishing, so why don't we quit and go fishing? But Senna said, Sid, there are certain things over which we have no control. I cannot quit. I have to go on. Because there was something else lurking under the carpets. Senna had work to get done. His mission was not fully accomplished. Ayrton examined the crash site. Ayrton also talked to Niki Lauda. And then he got with Gerhard Berger and Michael Schumacher to reform the Drivers Association. It is absolute insanity for the drivers who are on the track over 200 miles per hour to not have a voice. Ayrton, head of the group, to push for driver safety. But you know what the FIA did? Jack. The Drivers Association was back to only please them for the moment, but they were not heard. They only continued like nothing happened. The race was to come on Sunday. Ayrton also got an Austrian flag, the country that Roland Ratzenberger is from. Senna's motivation sprung up. with a new purpose for this race. He said that he would win the race and then wave the flag so that Roland is not forgotten, so that there can be sympathy and change. So Senna was not just trying to win for himself, he was racing for Roland Ratzenberger. So in Senna's plan, as soon as he gets out of that car, best case scenario if he wins, he will drop the biggest bombshell on Williams and the FIA, and there will be change, 100% guarantee. Nothing could stop his determination. He was now motivated not just from himself but also for Ratzenberger, and he took the suicide mission with both hands. Nothing was going to stop Senna now. With a new meaning, he shouted, "Hold my helmet." The San Marino Imola Grand Prix starts. Ayrton and Michael get fantastic launches off the line, flying away from everyone else. JJ Leto stalls his Benetton. Pedro Lame, starting from behind, couldn't see the stationary Benetton. Crashed. Debris including a flying tire hit spectators and one policeman. For the start, in total about 9 people were injured. That's 11 so far with one fatality. Why are we dancing with the dark? What is going on? The race is put under safety car. The debris is cleared up. Few laps and Senna tells the safety car driver, "Go faster, my tire's getting cold." And in this moment, all the drivers start thinking more, because they're not racing. The speed is down, the instinct is off, the adrenaline is calming down, the thoughts and fears start creeping in. But Senna couldn't be bothered. As soon as the green flag was waved, Senna was racing possessed, 100% locked in, concentrated, focused, all for one thing: go the fastest he possibly can for the name of Ratzenberger and justice. On Tamburello corner, which is very bumpy, while the inside, which is the fastest section, is the most bumpy part of it, and he was going flat out on the inside with the Williams. And on this corner, it had been bottoming out. You can see the sparks, but Senna was managing to control the demon. A good distance from Michael. Schumacher was right behind him in second place. The gap wasn't awfully growing, but it wasn't shrinking. Schumacher was strong, and Senna raced at top speed. Holding tight his line, he bottoms out, but he handles it fine, until that ticking bomb ran out of time. No, why? The steering broke. He was hugging the inside and then he just went in a straight line. As soon as he felt he had normal connection to the wheels, he produced 5 Gs of braking. From over 300 to about 200 kph, went over the concrete runoff area. At contact with the wall, he produced 200 Gs. It was 300 less than Roland Ratzenberger's crash. Oh, well, he's definitely hurt. Yeah, it would have been fine if it was just a 200 G impact, but it wasn't. The thing is, a suspension part from the front wheel struck Senna's helmet with immense force, and the helmet just couldn't hold it. It went through and fractured his brain. All brain data was messed up. He had immediate internal bleeding, a concerning lot of it. His head moved, but that wasn't it. When finally he was taken by the helicopter, and Senna could no longer say, "Hold my helmet." He died. He's gone. Was my hero really gone? He miscalculated. He didn't consider Tamburello. Of all tracks to take a gamble, this one, he was dancing with the demon. But the work was done. He did his job. Mission accomplished. Remember when I said that he insists there's a guarantee there will be sympathy and change? He had the process planned out just like in the past.
I refuse to walk away from the fight. It's my nature to go right to the end, and that's what I'm going to do.
But because of the miscalculation, he perished. Yet, even in his death, he got his way. They added a chicane to the Tamburello at Imola, made the surface better at tracks, made the cars safer. Senna brought a reworking in his death, and there was more sympathy for Ratzenberger. They found the Austrian flag in Senna's car, and Senna got his way. Senna died doing what's right. Ayrton was courageous enough to bring the change, even if it took the death of him. This was another level of motivation. But you see, we gotta give credit where it's due. I don't know what was Ayrton's prep on Sunday morning when he woke up, and it is not for us to make statements or guess what happened. A relationship with God is the most sacred thing available to mankind. Ayrton said that God helped him throughout his mission, throughout his life. When he was being treated unjustly, when he was under tremendous pressure, Schumacher, he himself said that he gained strength from God. That wasn't motivation alone. Ayrton Senna was strengthened by the God who gave him that motivation when he was still in the womb. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I know the plans I have for you. At the end of the day, only God knows why Senna had to die. We personally don't like it, but God's thoughts are higher than ours. When we don't have the answers, we do not have any job to do other than to trust Him. Who are you to think you can question God? Were you there when God was forming the horizon? We do not know God's thoughts. But maybe it could be that the only way racing was going to get safer was for there to be a big enough impact in the form of Senna's death. Senna just had the biggest influence. That's why Roland Ratzenberger's crash didn't work. And in the end, destroying the wrong people in order to save lives is more important than crossing the finish line first. He kind of reminds me of Samson. And so my favorite moments of Senna, what makes him my personal favorite, it wasn't the perfect moments of 1988. It was 93. It was 94. That's when he shined. You see, if you judge how good Senna is just based on stats, you don't know jack. Senna raced with a motivation unmatched. It might have been his weakness, but the truth is, it's disguised because it's actually his biggest strength. Because when he was motivated enough, his potential was simply scary. We didn't know if it had a limit. It actually wasn't a weakness at all. It was the way he lived life. And it is the same reason that he absolutely loved and cherished winning the 1990 fight, the massacre in Donington, coming a 10th off Allen's time in 94. You see, because it was his motivation that decided whether he even races or not, when he won, he enjoyed it the most. He was always content with the decision he made, and there was always a reason. And he never had a career. He was always on a mission. Senna had a psychological power over all of his opponents. Here's a little bonus clip I need to show you. Ayrton, while defending, blocking and squeezing, he performed a hypnosis on Alain, methodically making Alain's speed into his own, controlling his speed from the front. After squeezing Alain at high speed, they come to a corner, brake hard. Senna's brake is quite light, but he's staying with Alain for the moment. But then he suddenly spurted forward, lifting off the brake very early. So Alain subconsciously thought he broke too early and too hard into the corner, and he lifted off and rather oversped into Senna's pace, outbraking himself. This is power. Senna didn't just manage to control drivers from behind, but also from in front. He handled his opponents like guinea pigs. If you're talking about who's the best with numbers, who's the best championship contender, there are many greater than Senna. I'll even say Alain Prost is better. His math is perfect, but there's no one on the face of the earth who has been a faster driver than Ayrton Senna. It's not a case of he's always trying to go fast and now and then he gets lucky with 1993 Donington. No, Senna chooses when he wants to go fast and no one stops him. When Schumacher called him the GOAT, it wasn't out of sympathy for his death. It was because he knew when Senna wanted to go fast, he turned into an absolute firebird. When he wanted to, he could control anyone he wants. Who has this power? No one else possesses this power. Ayrton is without a doubt the most powerful driver to walk this planet. Even in his death, he ruled the world.